Is Keystone Crash about to end up in the slammer and the pen? Never skip a whole core video, because Kash Patel just lost a lawsuit over being called a googly-eyed chud. A judge looked at Kash Patel, and decided to cement the googly-eyed chud insult into court records. Shout out to consequences. Consequences which also come with discovery, which may cost Crash Money Patel criminally. Yes, this is true. The FBI director's $10 million defamation complaint came to a humiliating close after 3 years since it was first filed. So Kash Patel obviously has a problem with criticism. He doesn't like people being mean to him. And his solution is to turn around and sue everyone. His track record suggests that maybe he should try something different this time, because the FBI director has gone ahead and filed another personal defamation lawsuit. At this point, it's something you can set your watch to. And this time, it might end up costing him literally everything, because it didn't go the way he hoped.
And that is why we filed a $250 million defamation lawsuit. And any one of you that wants to participate, bring it on. I'll see you in court.
And it turns out, as we can see, wasn't even close to his first rodeo. And to get you up to speed, this time, the target is the Atlantic. Before that, it was a blogger. Before that, there were other critics who pointed out things like facts, like how he uses government resources like PJs just for funsy, and how he was cited not once but twice for whizzing in public while in law school at Pace. And after a while, you start wondering, how does the director of the FBI keep finding time for all these shenanigans? Running the FBI seems like a fairly demanding job, if you ask me. His inbox can't exactly be empty these days. There are, counterterrorism investigations, cyber attacks, wars that everyone in this administration is insisting that the United States isn't even involved in and didn't start. And of course, millions of Schmepstein files that he needs to deny exist. So the list is long, yet somewhere in the middle of that long list, Keystone Cash has made room to sue people who say things about him that he'd rather them not say. And listen, he's allowed to do that. Nobody's questioning whether he has the legal right to file a lawsuit. The question is whether any of these lawsuits are actually accomplishing what he wants them to accomplish. Because once you start following the record, you end up with a story that's so much more than a googly-eyed chuddy story, more than a single defamation case. So there's one lawsuit that quietly disappeared after years of litigation, and another one may open the door to a little thing called discovery involving the FBI itself. So somehow every attempt that he makes to make this criticism go away seems to create another week of headlines, repeating those same criticisms all over again. And I'm going to show you the real reason Kash Patel's lawsuit fell apart. And it's not what you'd expect. The judge's decision raises a bigger problem for Crash Money. And it's a bigger problem than the headlines suggest. There's one detail in this ruling that completely changes how this lawsuit ends for Mr. Keystone. So what the judge actually said is a lot more damaging than what the headlines are letting on. So the biggest problem now for Crash is that his newest lawsuit may end up costing him the old Kremlin chud big time. Like, he literally just shot himself in the foot, or put himself in the pen, if you're following. Okay, so, and real quick, if you're new here, I'm Loren Piretra. Willa Piretra and I, we do this every single day out of pure principle. And unfortunately, we have to tell you a grave situation has developed. Stephen Little Bitch Miller has breached, camouflaging himself into a pile of discarded Turning Point USA Freedom t-shirts. And I need you to stay safe. And I need you to protect yourself and those around you. And you can do that by hitting subscribe, following us wherever you got your podcast, leaving us a 5-star rating, leaving us a comment, 6 words or more, hyping this video, sharing it with a friend, turning notifications on. All of these actions keep you safe from Stephen Miller. So Kash Patel sued a blogger for $10 million. He ended up with $0 million. And he doesn't like being called names on the internet. Again, so this is the root of it all. He didn't like the name calling, so he went and sued a guy over it, and then he lost. He took the L, and then he lost again in a different way. And this wasn't even his first time doing this. So back in June 2023, Crash sued a blogger named Jim Stewartson. Stewartson calls himself an anti-disinformation activist. He spent months online calling Keystone a blatantly incompetent chud. Okay. And he also said Keystone attempted to overthrow the government and helped leave the Capitol undefended on Jan 6, 2021. Patel wanted $10 million for this. He filed the lawsuit in Nevada. Here's the part where things kind of briefly went Cash's way. But this one, it wasn't real. So Stewartson never responded to the lawsuit. He straight up ghosted it. He didn't even file the paperwork, and he just didn't show up to court. So when that happens, judges issue what's called a default judgment. The other side wins automatically, not because they proved anything, but because nobody argued back. So in August 2025, Patel won $250,000. The money got split between him and something called the Kash Foundation, which allegedly gives money to veterans and law enforcement. Loves a cop. A judge ruled in his favor, but not for long. He got legally declared not a chud by default because the other guy couldn't even be bothered to show up. Shout out to him. But then there's the comeback moment. Stewartson came back, and he did not come back to say, I'm sorry, Crash. He came back and asked the court to throw out the whole judgment. He didn't argue that he had not said any of it. He didn't try to prove that the claims were true or false. He argued something so much simpler. He lives in California. He has no ties to Nevada. And then posting online where Nevada residents might read it isn't enough to give Nevada court power over him. It's a technical argument, and it worked anyway. Around this time, Stewartson told the New York Times he found it funny that Patel's own logic quoted the word chud directly. His logic is, how do you prove that somebody isn't a chud? Great question. Nobody seemed to have a good answer to that, including the US government. So on July 25th, 2026, federal judge Andrew Gordon ruled the court never had jurisdiction over Stewartson in the first place. That wiped out the entire case, judgment included. So 3 years of litigation ended with Patel back where he started, chuddy, googly-eyed, and all. So the judge wasn't even done with him yet, though, because Stewartson had also called Patel a googly-eyed Kremlin bitch online. He told the court that he was dead serious and offered to explain why in detail. Judge Gordon quoted, and I quote, googly-eyed Kremlin bitch in his dismissal order, and a footnote which went into a federal court document, which I think is really beautiful, if you ask me. And an FBI director gave the sitting judge a legal reason to type the phrase, googly-eyed Kremlin bitch. Amazing. Great merch opportunities there. Stewartson posted afterwards, PSA, now that my case is settled, you are free to refer to FBI Director Kash, and he tagged him, as chud and a googly-eyed Kremlin bitch and a traitor without fear of legal repercussions. Shout out to Stewartson from that. I know a thing or two about legal repercussions from calling people names that are not true or false. So Patel spent 2 years in federal courts over this and came out on the other side having legally confirmed that it's fine to call him a chud. Hope core. Here's the part that makes things worse for Kash, because he's not done. He keeps doing this. He's just digging his own, if you will. So Stewartson wasn't a one-time thing. According to court filings from the Atlantic's legal team, this is Patel's fourth rodeo, fourth unsuccessful defamation suit against the media. He's also sued the New York Times, CNN, Politico, MSNBC analyst Frank Filguzli. None of those worked out. So the director of the FBI had an even worse win rate in court than most people have at the DMV. And now there's the fifth lawsuit. He's suing the Atlantic for $250 million over reporting that he engaged in excessive drinking and was regularly unreachable behind locked doors.
I'm like an everyday American who loves his country, loves the sport of hockey, and champions my friends when they raise a gold medal and invite me in to celebrate. I've never been intoxicated on the job.
Patel calls it pure fantasy. The Atlantic lawyers didn't soften anything in their motion to dismiss. This is Director Patel's fifth defamation lawsuit against the media in recent years, and the second one he has filed since being sworn in as FBI director. None of those prior lawsuits were successful, and this one is equally meritless. So one legal expert called Patel's odds daunting. To win, he has to prove that Atlantic knew nothing or strongly suspected that what they printed was false. It's already a hard bar to clear, but it gets worse when you've already failed to clear that four times, Kash Patel. But here's where it takes a turn. Skirt! Kash Patel wasn't counting on this to happen. He opened this door. So the lawsuit he filed opened a door he cannot close easily. One that might lead to the pen. So once you file a defamation suit, the other side gets the legal tools they didn't have before. This is where the case gets really interesting. So the Atlantic isn't just asking the judge to dismiss the case. They're also asking for permission to start doing some digging. So Patel's own complaint leans on internal DOJ and FBI information to argue the reporting was false. So the Atlantic's lawyers are saying, fair enough, let's go. Hand over the rest of the information. If the case survives the motion to dismiss, they want the court to let them go get those records through discovery. And if the court says yes, this stops being about a little article and starts being about the evidence behind said article. Slay, we're ready for that. So the Atlantic wants the documents on Patel's travel and schedule and stretches of time where he was allegedly unreachable. And they also want internal communications about his job performance, any concerns raised about him internally, and any records that could confirm the contradiction that they're reporting. They also want depositions. Love that for them. They're also looking for testimony from people who might know something about Patel's accessibility while running the literal FBI. They also want to know about his alleged alcohol use and alleged retaliatory firings, concerns about his leadership, and his focus on his own public image. So we know Kash Patel sued a publication to protect his image, and now he might be dredging up a court record about how much he cares about said image. So suddenly, Patel's own lawsuit could put him under a microscope. We love to see it. So this legal strategy was meant to prove the reporting was false and could end up testing his denials in an open court. But if discovery turns up documents or testimony backing what the Atlantic wrote, that helps the Atlantic, not Keystone. So in other words, the lawsuit filed to make a story disappear could trigger the exact fact finding he was trying to avoid. So that's why this filing is getting so much attention. Discovery works both ways, big guys. So what happens next is it decided. So none of this is locked in. It depends on whether senior U.S. District Judge Emmett Sullivan decides. So the Atlantic asked him to dismiss the case with prejudice, meaning Patel could refile the same claim later. Whether that happens comes down to whether Patel adequately alleged actual malice. The standard public officials have to meet in defamation cases. So the standard has not gone well for him so far. Remember, he's 0 for 4. So this is also possible that the judge dismisses the case before any discovery happens. He could limit what the Atlantic can request. It's also possible the FBI or the DOJ block some records using its privilege and messiness. It's even possible Patel wins. But if the judge doesn't throw out the case, this fight could look very different from where it started. It's worth being clear here. None of this puts Patel at risk for criminal charges right now. Losing or filing a defamation suit doesn't work that way. What he's actually risking is civil. And the case, if it gets dismissed, he could owe certain legal costs. But whatever comes out during discovery becomes public. So the biggest risk here is everything the lawsuit could dredge up. So this is where it leaves him. He's now filed 5 defamation suits against media outlets. There seems to be a pattern here. 0 of them have worked out for him. His one win got reversed, and then he took another L, which was beautiful. And the judge actually literally put googly-eyed Kremlin bitch into the official record along the way. Love that. Gorgeous. And he's dense enough to still be suing the Atlantic. So if the court allows the case to proceed, the biggest risk right now is discovery. The consequences of the information that comes out around this sloppy, drunk, messy man, we don't know what could happen there. If the public gets this disclosed evidence, certain litigations could follow. And we love to see it. I want to know what you guys think. Do you think that Kash Patel is a drunk, fumbling mess, googly-eyed chud, Kremlin? What are some words that you would use to describe Kash Patel? Let me know in the comments, and we'll be back with more.